Getting to Sandhurst is a huge achievement, but it is just the very start. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why the first 5 weeks are referred to as the shock of capture. In the last video, we looked at why the shock of capture is difficult to navigate and catches some people off guard when you first start at Sandhurst. We also looked at how the first 5 weeks of training at Sandhurst is equivalent to an entire 12-week basic training period if you were to join as a soldier. And we also started to look at some of the reasons as to why you are so busy in those first 5 weeks. And now in this video, we're going to continue and go into more detail, specifically about one of the most challenging points in Sandhurst. Let's get into it. Okay, another part is going to be PT. We are going to be doing a lot of PT in the first 5 weeks. And it varies, right? When I went through, there was probably a lot more emphasis on certain parts of PT than now, and that's because they're constantly evolving the course. However, you will still do lots of PT, especially in the first 5 weeks, because they are trying to get you to a standard where you can then deploy on exercise. Think about what this whole process is trying to do. It's trying to build you up so that you can then do the actual job. So the first 5 weeks, if they're not intense on PT, it's not going to get you to the standard that you need to be to then do well on the rest of the course, which is carrying full weight on exercise for a week on end or whatever it is, right? So you'll do lots of PT. That's going to be a lot of circuits. There's going to be a lot of running. It's going to be start to building up your tabbing as well. Might start really light with just 5 kilos, then it'll be 10 kilos, 15 and so on, right? So they're going to try and get you through that. As I've mentioned a lot on all of my socials about the best thing you can do here to prepare for that is turn up fit, because what follows on from that, if you don't do it right, is you'll start to get really nervous on all platoon events, and people start to see that, and it can really knock your confidence as well. If you're nervous before all the phys events because you know you struggle with it, not only will you feel a bit shit, but other people will look at you and think you're a bit shit as well, and it's really difficult. Remember, you're in a platoon full of aspiring leaders, right? So everyone wants to be at the front, everyone wants to offer themselves up and do well. Being good at PT is going to make your life a whole lot easier. Next up, we've got weapon systems and ranges. Okay, so you can't be a soldier if you can't fire a weapon. So there's going to be a lot of lessons on how to handle a rifle, and then eventually get you into a range situation where you can fire it for real and all that type of stuff, and learn how to shoot. And probably the fifth part, which is going to take a considerable amount of time, is drill practice. You're going to be doing a shitload of drill. That is essentially marching on the square, doing lots of different movements. Again, what they're trying to do is put you into a teamwork mindset. Okay, so everyone in step with each other, everyone doing the same thing. It also takes a lot of discipline. Like, I didn't go and join the guards for a few different reasons. One, because I'm probably not posh enough, but I didn't want to do drill because it's fucking hard, all right? Standing on the square in the sun all day is difficult, right? So they're going to be doing a lot of drill. I think what's really important to note with all of this stuff is it is literally like lesson after lesson after lesson. So you start really early, say 05, you are on the line, they put this black tape outside your rooms, and that is called the line. At 5 a.m, everyone's on the line, and then you down a bottle of water for some random reason, you sing the national anthem, and then you crack on, you start cleaning. So way before you've had breakfast, you've started the day, and then way before your first lesson, you've done loads of stuff before. Then what happens is you start to just roll into lesson after lesson after lesson. So it could be PT first thing, get back. You might have like 10 minutes for 30 people to use 6 showers, and then you're into the next lesson. Then you're on navigation. Then you're in a lecture hall doing something else and learning about the basics of being an officer, the values and standards, whatever that might be. The next thing, you've got weapon systems. Hopefully you're getting the point that it's fast paced. That's what I'm giving you. So you can, if you do have it coming up, you can start to expect that. That is what a typical day might look like in those first 5 weeks. Okay, point number 4, I want to talk about where people go wrong with this. As I've mentioned, it's fast paced and there's lots of learning. You're going to get stuff wrong. Also, I really want to emphasize the point about you're going to be tired. I remember towards the end of those 5 weeks, I was literally falling asleep stood up. Like, I was absolutely shattered. And it's a really intense 5 weeks, and you are, it's quite nervy as well, because you start to get the lay of the land, you start to settle in a bit, and then something will happen that will just shake you again. Where people go wrong is, I think, on a couple of different reasons. The first one is probably the fact that they're trying to be way too much of a leader too soon. And what I mean by that, like, teamwork's super important, but obviously it's a team of aspiring leaders. You don't always need to be the person that's offering up in trying to lead, right? Kind of just like settle in. In my previous video, I spoke about duties as an officer, turning up to battalion and maybe not trying to change the world on day one. Kind of the same in the first 5 weeks. You just want to understand the lay of the land, learn as much as possible, and of course you want to demonstrate some leadership ability, but your success isn't just judged off 5 weeks. So don't feel the need to be like a real thruster there, okay? You can get through the first 5 weeks and just be a good team player. That's the second part, is they don't buy into the platoon. When you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're cold, when you're wet, but definitely in camp towards the end of this first 5 weeks, like, working as a team is going to be a lot more challenging just because everyone is knackered. So therefore, really understand that, really recognize the fact that these first 5 weeks are going to be difficult and you need people's help to get you through it. And then the final point, which I think is really important for this, it is the simple stuff, but it's admin. Making sure that you can actually square your own kit away. You don't want to be labeled from your peers as someone who's unreliable. So making sure that your kit's always good to go, that you are turning up in the right place with the right kit at the right time with the right attitude is super important, because what you'll also get is if one person is constantly late, the platoon will probably end up getting punished for it as well. And when you're tired and you've already done PT that day and you get sent running or you do more push-ups, it gets really, really tiresome. It gets really boring. So being someone that the platoon can rely on is really important, and the best way you can do that is to just make sure that your kit is squared away. That means the night before, right, probably one of the best bits of advice I was actually given when I went to Sandhurst was, whatever the task is in the morning, never leave your admin for it till that morning. You will be very, very tempted to, because you'll be tired and you'll think, oh, it's 1 a.m, it's 2 a.m. I'm going to stop now and just get to sleep so that I'll just do it in the morning. But when you're up at 5, you're already in a severe lack of sleep anyway. When you're up at 5, like, you're not getting out of bed as soon as that alarm goes off because you're absolutely going to be knackered. So whatever that admin piece is, a bit more ironing, getting your kit packed for whatever PT event you've got, whatever that might be, just try and get it done the night before, and that will alleviate a massive stress for you the day after. So that is where most people go wrong in those first 5 weeks. All right, and the final point that I want to cover is how to survive it. I've already laboured a few points on where people go wrong, and to survive it, you basically just need to do the basics well, and you'll hear that throughout your entire army career. As I mentioned about the admin, getting yourself squared away, but also any of the downtime that you do have, really try and prioritize that to catch up on things that you just didn't quite understand first time around. You won't have loads of opportunities to do this, but it can really help. For example, if navigation is something that you're going to struggle with and you've identified that as a key area, then that's where you need to be trying to catch up before we progress on to the next part of the course, because it's not quite as fast paced as the next 5 weeks, but the entire junior term is pretty fast. The entirety of Sandhurst is pretty fast. So when you don't get to the level required needed at that stage for a certain part, it's not like you can just come back and start afresh and you'll have more time. They've gone on to the next bit, right? So you really need to understand, or try as best as you can to get to the required standard. Same with weapon handling, and the same with fitness, okay? That's going to be super important, because if you start to struggle, there's not going to be a whole lot of time for you to catch up. So this would probably be in your sort of weekends off doing extra PT, in your leave periods, and probably whilst you're there as well. Not that you'll get any time in the junior term, but afterwards you want to be doing everything you can to catch up with the standard, because as I said before, it's a fast-paced course throughout, and once you start to fall behind, it can be really difficult to, one, maintain your credibility, and 2, just learn what needs to be learned. So that is my top tips for actually how to survive, is anything that you don't understand, which there will be bits, is make sure you make a note of it and do everything you can to get to the required standard. And then finally, as always, is do everything you can to be a good team player. If you stay up at night helping other people, they will remember it. If you do everything in your power to add value to the team, they will remember it. If you're not adding value, very, very simply, you become a burden, and you need to be able to add value to the team. Otherwise, other people will recognize that and they'll kind of shun you. They'll kind of label that, which can be difficult to shake for the rest of your time at Sandhurst. So pretty much that is my top tip for surviving Sandhurst. Okay guys, that is it for this week's video. I really want to make the point again is like, I really enjoyed my time at Sandhurst. I had an awesome experience. It developed me into a good, competent leader that I could then build on throughout my career. And I made some awesome friends and had some unreal experiences, right? However, it is challenging and those first 5 weeks are difficult, and I doubted myself a lot in those first 5 weeks. So I'm putting this together to give you the information so that you can prepare as best as you can, and also when it inevitably does get hard, you understand why and the fact that you can come out the other side. That is my ultimate aim with this video. If it's been useful, please like, it really helps me out. Also subscribe, click the bell so you can be notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you next week with a brand new video.